Okay, we're going to start now the presentation. We want to welcome you to the presentation of technical inspection. Simon Densman over there and I going to hold a presentation. We hope we can answer some questions which you had this morning. And if you have questions, feel free to ask in the end or afterwards. Okay, now start. So all information about the documents you will find on the website. They're the official documents. You can read the rules. And we asked, we will upload the presentations from the event today, so please check them. At first, I want to start with going back to this year. Parc Fermé, we disqualified 7 teams after finishing endurance. Here are the reasons why we disqualified them. We had problems with the front wing with 3 teams. Under trail size, we had a problem. Brake over travel switch, it's coming every year again. Maybe you should know by now that we're going to test the brake over travel switch. And high voltage violation. How you read in the rules, you shouldn't go over 600 volts. If you go above, we have to disqualify you, even if you finish endurance. So the rules are important all the time. And we decided to have 2070, we will have a Parc Fermé again. So please check your car, don't change anything. And if you know we're going to check something, please make it right. We don't want to take any team out. If you finished, we are happy for you. We are just there to make the competition safe and fair between all teams. So then we go back. This year we have a new rule set. The rules for an FS Germany, who will also apply in FS Austria. The rule set say what you are not allowed to do. Everything what's not in there, you're allowed to do. But please think about good engineering practice. So if you use your common sense, you're normally quite right. And we had the feeling today, if you ask us some question and you can answer them by yourself, then maybe it's not allowed, if you know it already. So use your common sense and go with good engineering practice, then you are good to go. Then we decided here we are motorsport. Motorsport can always be dangerous, so please be aware. If you have some sensors in there, use them for testing as well, if you be at home. Please be aware, it can be dangerous anywhere. And that's most important with your driver, is the person sitting in there. And this year we had a lot of driving equipment, what we had to take away from you because there was mistakes. Some broken gloves with big holes in there where you can see the hand, or broken helmets. Please check them. The driver is a person and his life is more important than the competition. So please buy proper equipment. It would be nice to see less boxes next year, or none of them. What is driver equipment? You know, it's a prototype. I said, it can break something, it can have a fire, anything is possible. So please make sure that the driver is protected well and that he stays alive and healthy and all the other team members around it. This rule is just there for your safety, not for us to give us more work. One thing what always goes wrong is the driver harness. You see pictures how you should adjust them. Please look at them and then do it the right way. And also, for the drivers, don't open your driver harness when you're driving a car. We have to take you out and you have to get in again. We saw it this year in Hockenheim. And we have a lot of rules. Please read them carefully. What is allowed, what is permitted. It's quite clearly stated in there. Another thing is the bodywork. You see a lot of nice cars, they're looking great, and then we have to change some stuff on the nose. They have to make some adjustments because the nose has not the right radius over there. You can measure it before and make clear it's right. And here you have like even a template. So the template, if it fits in there, what you see with on this side, it's okay. If the template, you can move it on top of the nose, it's not okay, it's not correct. We try. Please test it before scrutineering. You save your team and all other teams a lot of time. Then we come to the new rules. I think the frame rules got a little bit shorter, but mostly mean the same to the FSRE rules. They're not too big of a difference. We just have different measurements. And the lowest point down here doesn't have to be here, it has to be anywhere. It's just on a figure at one point. And we had a lot of questions. What is going to happen if we have a monocoque and maybe the front tube ends up here and the main home down there, and the driver wants to sit like the lowest point of the seat would be down here. If you go back to the FSRE rules, you have the rule T43.1, and it has another phrase. So if you have surrounding structure, like main structure around it, between these 2 points, and the driver sitting in this main structure, and side impact structure, it is fine. So if the rule from the FSRE T 4.3.1 applies, you are fine to go. Our rules don't say something different. We just explicit put it in there, the second part of the phrase, but it means the same. Did I forget something about? Okay, then we come to the impact attenuator. We had some questions. What is the crushable zone or the impact attenuator zone? It's all the zone in front of the impact attenuator. There should be nothing, and also the zone defined in your test. If you test your IP, has a slightly deformation. This deformation zone towards the driver is also the zone where nothing is allowed to be in. That means you can't put your braking calipers right around the IP if you have a deformation there. It has to be that far of a distance away from the IP plate, and you're not allowed to have anything in front here. No crushable objects. Also, you can put the nose on top. That we don't mind. But you shouldn't put any sensors or anything in front there. I hope that clarifies some questions from this morning. Another thing is, if you want to test this, you have to test it still, this case, with the attachment of the wings, like you did it last year, because it's mounted to the IP, or if it's if you put some forces to the IP or the hoop behind it. Then you have to test it like the way it was. If you mount your wing behind it, you don't have to test it. Okay, then we go to the next one. We have a firewall. Firewalls we have not only by ECAS, we have it by CCAS as well. Firewalls shouldn't be of flammable material. If we don't believe you, we just can take a test. So you should bring a test piece, and if you can burn it, it's flammable. So please make sure. A lot of teams use aluminum tape, what is mostly fine, but there are some tapes who's not acceptable. So you should look that all your tapes have this on it. Then they will be fine. Another thing, aluminum tape is not properly fastened for a firewall. You can't put a firewall in, just tape it with aluminum tape. We don't count this as properly fastened for a firewall. You also have fasteners. It's just to sometimes fill in some small gaps between your monocoque and your firewall, but it's not for fastening. And here's some other materials you could use. Please check them before you get there. Then we go back to safety wiring. You lose a lot of safety wiring for positive locking, and you also have the tool, and it should look like this or this way. So please make sure it looks the proper way everywhere where you use it. For example, if you use it on an accumulator as positive locking, it has to look the same way. So please make sure it goes this way. We don't want that the screws can loosen themselves, so they have to be tied against each other, like in the pictures. And also, here's a movie inside. and you can look at the movie and follow the instructions. We saw a lot of mistakes this year, so. And if it's not made right, you will go out of scrutineering and come again. And you can have self-built fasteners, self-made fasteners, because it's a design competition. So you can have them, and we will accept them. But please make sure that you bring 3 things with you: the documents, your calculations, your testing data, and all the data sheets for the manufacturer or where you let manufacture your fasteners. Don't try to calculate on the event site. Bring the material with you beforehand. And now we come to the most interesting rule. I think everybody knows about it. Aerodynamics rule. It's quite open. You could build a car looking like this. I think you need a really good driver for this one. So the rules are really open, but maybe you should go to the more detailed views like this. I know the aerodynamic rules is a big change. And if you want to give us feedback on the rules, I guess that will be the rule we get the most feedback. But please, we need proper feedback. So we need your measurements to your design right now, to the design what you have to change for our rules, and the influence on other parts. For example, if you have to change the wings, the monocoque, the suspension has to change. Give us numbers of sizes, of everything. Then we can take your feedback in account. If I just write feedback, we don't like this rule, honestly, we can't do anything with this feedback. So please, if you send us feedback, give us more feedback. Give us feedback, we have to make the wing that much lower, we have to lift up the main hoop like this, or we have to smaller the monocoque, or it has an influence on our side ports around this much. Please give us detailed feedback if you want to complain about this rule, and I think a lot of you want to give us feedback about this rule. So I'm looking forward to read your feedback. Then we go to the next point, the accumulator container. The accumulator container has now less rules, and you're more free to build what you want to build. If you build an accumulator described in the FSRE rules, it's like a step-by-step process. It's like a building construction. It will be also accepted at FSG because it will fulfill our rules, but you're more free to do what you want to do. You have more design space. That's the same going back to the aero rules. We want to give you more design space in a certain amount of way. For the aero rules, we decided to lower the wing on the back because we have to see the TSL and we want to make combustion and e-cars more similar rules. So we don't have a big of difference between the 2 types of cars. Also, we try to make some simple measurements where we can measure all time. And we said we had to disqualify 2 teams with front wings. We don't want to have this again. So if you have a measurement, what will be always the same, not dependent what you do on your car, which setup you use for your tire, suspension setup you use, or whatever. That's the reason we changed the rule, to make it good and easy measurable and to give the teams more freedom to build. We don't want to give you the exact numbers. You should think what is the best for your car, for your performance, and we don't want to give you all the information. It's a design competition. The same is with the accumulator case. Now you have forces again, and you have to calculate your own fasteners. You don't have 8 fasteners anymore. You have to calculate how many you need. But I'm sure you can manage this task quite good. And then we come to a picture from last night. One team had a burning accumulator again, but you see the case was holding. So our kind of surrounding rules are good and keep you safe. We make the rules to keep you safe and the car safe and the competition fair. So now I will give to Simon 2 more electrical rules. But it will be interesting for C teams as well, because you're getting electrical rules this year as well.
Yes, actually Actually, I will start with stuff important for the C cars as well, but we will go back quite some month, and probably you will notice the bed over there and some battery components. So if a battery burns, it looks like this. That's why the accumulator container and the battery is so important. So let's go to low voltage batteries. They can burn as well. This nice firefighter guy has one burning battery in his hand, and that's why we changed some rules. The battery has to be in the rollover protected area, like all the high voltage stuff does. If you read it in the rules, there's an exact definition where you can put your battery. If you use your common sense, you're right. The battery needs a firewall to protect the driver, and must have an overcurrent protection. If you don't use standard lithium accumulators, it's okay if you just use a fuse, a normal fuse somewhere in your wiring harness. Ideally next to the battery, but it doesn't have to be inside the battery. If you use lithium accumulators, which need a AMS or a BMS, then this overcurrent protection has to be inside the battery pack. And last but not least, don't drill in batteries. It's a bad idea we experienced this year. So let's come to the electrical inspection. First, this year we have seen a lot of HVDs which look like this, so high voltage disconnects. And nothing changed in the new rules. We just enforced the new rules that this is not allowed anymore. The whole HVD is part of the tractive system. And all the tractive system stuff has to be rollover protected. If this car has a rollover situation, so all the wheels fly away, and then the HVD will get damaged. That's why this place is not the ideal place for an HVD. So it has to be rollover protected. And you will not drive if you have this solution at FSG. Another thing is, there's another mistake. Probably you can see the contacts, live contacts. The HVD has to be protected for being touched. Probably you should use a dummy connector. Next thing is that the wiring for your wheel hub motors needs to be as short as possible, so at least the wiring outside of the rollover protected envelope. And this is okay. Oh, there's no green check mark. There should be a green check mark. And there's a new rule. You have to make sure that if this wiring breaks, no matter where, for example here, that it can never reach the cockpit opening or the driver. We will be really strict for this rule next year. We have been this year as well, but it's an important rule. So let's come to the positive locking. Probably you will be happy about the new positive locking, because you must not in any case manipulate your airs anymore. Don't use helicoils in your airs. Just don't do it. Don't think about it. Don't use them anywhere in any connection in the HV system. And if you have proper airs, automotive certified, just use them as they are certified. If they are certified for lock washers with a torque from 3 to 4 Newton meters, it's fine. Have your data sheet where this is stated, and we will accept that. And just as a hint, nylocks normally do not fulfill the temperature range needed. So nylogs are often just rated for 80 degrees. It's needed for the tractive system to have a temperature rating of 90 degrees. Next thing, we had a lot of discussions last year was the plastic and stack ups for connections. So every tractive system connection you do, so if you do it by compressing to electrical conductive parts, no matter what you are doing, there must not be any plastics in the stack up. Never ever. No plastic. Don't do it. We won't accept it. And for connectors, withstanding voltage is not equal to rating voltage. We know that there are some mistakes in the ESF database, but they won't be accepted next year. Check your connectors. If you buy the wrong connectors, you have to buy a new set, I think. Maintenance plugs. We have seen quite a lot of good and bad ideas. That's why we have a new rule. It must not be possible to connect them wrong. So if you have maintenance plugs and you can plug them in a different manner, it's a bad idea. You have to change your design, because then you could do a short circuit. And that's unfortunate for the guy doing it. And the maintenance plugs, they have to separate both poles of each segment, even for the first and the last segment. So if you are doing that, you can work without any potential, electric potential on your airs or on your surrounding electrics, and your battery segments are completely disconnected from them. So it's no new rule. It's just to clarify this rule. And last but not least, another clarification: if you build your custom connectors or whatever, you use any connectors, they must provide proper current rating at all time. Even at 90 degrees, because that's the temperature rating it must have, and 1 g lateral acceleration, and rain and moonshine. At all the time, there must be a proper current rating. And if you cannot guarantee proper current rating, use different connectors. And now the tractor system active light, probably the most noticeable change to the old rules. This light is, the reason for this light is to indicate if the car is likely to move, or if there's HV available outside of the accumulator container, or if it's safe. So that's why we introduced the green light. We want to show the officials or the marshals on the track, okay, you have pushed the emergency button and the green light is illuminated, the car is safe, you can push it away, or you can do a rescue operation for the driver or whatever. That's why there has to be a green light. And there are just 3 modes of operation. The red light is blinking, just the red light. The green light is illuminated constantly, or the T-cell is off. You cannot combine them. That's an XOR, exclusive OR. Don't combine them. It might be supplied or may be supplied from grounded low voltage system, as all the electric circuits, if not stated differently in the rules. And a single light is defined as a light within one housing, or if you have multiple LEDs and they're really next to each other, it's still one light. Last but not least, the system critical signals. Probably you have noticed. And probably you read through it and you said, hey, almost every signal is a system critical signal because it has an influence on the shutdown system because all the safety stuff, or it has an influence on the driver requested torque. Yes, you're right. almost every signal is one. Even your steering wheel angle sensor, because you do torque vectoring or some vehicle dynamics controls. Yeah, you have to detect if there's a wiring failure, and if there's a wiring failure, you have to go to a safe state. A safe state can be different in each situation. For example, for the steering wheel sensor, a safe state would be that you just disable your vehicle dynamics control. But it wouldn't be the safest state to do emergency brake and stop your electric motors, because then the car is somewhere next to the track, and that's not a real safe state. But opening the shutdown circuit is one of the safest states if one of your parts inside the shutdown circuit fails. So you have to use your brain and your common sense to see what is a safe state for each failure. And to detect failures, this one is one of your best friends. A nice small resistor, very small if you compare it to the banana for scale, right on the right lower side. And use them, just a simple pull down resistor. It will help. It will help a lot. Yes, so that's our formal presentation we have prepared, but I'm sure you have a huge bunch of questions for scrutineering rules and FSG 217, so feel free to ask, and we will try to give you the best answers we can. Thanks.
Thank you for the presentation. This morning you mentioned that the CES stays the same. And in the FSAE rules it mentions the rule on quasi-isotropic layups. Is that removed from the FSG rules now?
Can you please ask again? I just didn't hear you properly.
Okay. So in the FSAE rules you have the number is T3.27.4. The rule about quasi-isotropic layups. This morning you mentioned that the CES is going to stay the same. Does that rule stay then also in the FSG rules?
Since I'm an electrical scrutineer, you're asking a question about mechanics, I will hand over to my assistant.
You mean the SES to it?
Yep.
The SES will stay quite the same like last year. Also will be similar to it.
So that rule will stay in effect?
We don't have the rules in front of us, so we won't say, yes, that rule will stay the same. Because the German rules, they count.
So my recommendation would be if you just send a rule request and then we will check in detail.
Or show us the rules later, we can talk about it. Because I don't know all rules by heart.
Okay. Another question?
So coming back to the point that plastics and stack-ups in electric connections are forbidden.
Yes.
What's the point about it? Is it the compressibility, or is plastic all non-materials? What's the definition of plastics?
Yeah, the best point is there's no definition. The definition is, again, common sense. And the thing about the plastic in the stack-up is that if plastic heats up, then your pressure will reduce. And then the resistance will increase, and it heats even up more, and then everything blows up. So now you have the intent, and the rule is then this thing that's in the book. So the rules are that clear. I'm impressed. So we did a quite good job, I think.
Okay.
And there were no rules questions during the next week, I think. Yeah. If you don't have any questions, then I think we have 29 minutes break. We can use that for some coffee and lunch. And then we will see each other again for the next speech. Thanks a lot.